Welcome. You are listening to Curiosity Lab, a radio show dedicated to questions and wonder. I am your host, Shanti O'Connor. Hello, Central Oregon. I am back. I've been home with my children all summer, taking a bit of a break, but today is my first day back in a couple months, and I'm so excited to be here because I have Dr. Joshua Phillips on the phone. He's a naturopath physician and director at Hawthorn Healing Arts. Hey, Josh, you there?
Hey, Shanti, I'm here.
You're there. Yay. I can't hear you too well. Just want to make sure I'm not on speaker. But yeah, so I invited Dr. Joshua Phillips to be on the radio show because he's one of our frontline workers. He's out there doing great work for our community. And actually, before we start, I wanted to say congratulations. I just saw for the Source Best of Readers poll, you guys won Best Alternative Healthcare. What was the title?
Yeah, that's right. Best Alternative Health Clinic, exactly. Yeah, we were really excited about that.
Was that your first time winning it?
It was. Last year we actually took second place, still an honor. But yeah, we were really thrilled this year that people reached out and threw in a vote for us. The accolade is really nice, and it means a lot to our group for sure.
I feel like you guys should have won it a long time ago because, just me personally, I think you guys have the best clinic in town. And I have had great experiences there, and I've been really impressed with the work you guys do. So long overdue, in my opinion.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So, really quick, maybe a little background. How long has Hawthorn been open, and what was your intention when you opened it?
We've been a clinic as Hawthorn Healing Arts Center for just over 10 years, actually, and we've been in this location downtown for all that time. My wife, Chelsea, and I have been in Bend, nearly 18 years at this point, and have been practicing here the whole time. But we, 10 years ago, made this move to create this group practice with a real excitement for bringing a group of providers together to work in a collaborative way. And honestly, that was born from, it can be pretty isolating when you're in a solo practice, and I'm a people person and love working in a team environment. So a lot of it was motivated by that. And the vision was really to bring together a group of providers offering holistic health care, holistic primary care, and integrative medicine and functional medicine from a variety of disciplines. And additionally, I'm someone who's big on education and inspiration and empowering folks to take care of themselves. So part of the vision was also to have a space for workshops and classes and opportunities for learning in a group setting. And then also, we have a small medicinary here where we have herbs and homeopathics and vitamins, et cetera, that are available for the community. So that was really the vision of Hawthorn, is to bring those three pieces together, a place where, people could come for healthcare items as well as classes and workshops, and then to get direct care with holistic providers.
Yeah, and my experience is your providers are really grounded and rooted in their profession and have a deep understanding and knowledge that they're able to impart to their clients. And so it really, really is a very high-quality clinic you guys are running.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate you saying that. We've magnetized a really neat group of people, offering naturopathic medicine, as well as acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and massage therapy, and now Ayurvedic medicine as well, and have always had a counseling component to the offering as well. Our group, particularly, the naturopaths and Chinese medicine practitioners, we really are rooted in the traditions of the medicine and really stick to the principles of a holistic approach to healthcare. And as naturopaths are trained in conventional therapies as well, so we can lean into the conventions of laboratory testing and exams and workups as well.
Yeah, I want to get to that. So, but really quick, I'm curious, how have you guys been weathering as a business, as a group, these past, 18 months or so?
Well, it's been a real roller coaster. I think, for many businesses, obviously there have been those businesses that have really flown and taken off during all this. I think for smaller outpatient clinics like ours, it's not been easy. There's obviously a pretty strong regulatory environment in place, and obviously, like most places, we were shut down for a number of weeks at the beginning of all this. And I think that in the beginning, it created a lot of fear, and I guess not even in the beginning, but in general, there's just a great deal of fear in the community about being around other people. And so, coming in person for visits was a sort of a slow return early on. And like most places, we jumped onto the telemedicine train very, very quickly, and are still doing that, and able to offer care for folks via phone consultations or on Zoom or other online ways. So that has become a big addition to the practice. Obviously, there's certain hands-on treatments that can only be done in person, but for consultations and so forth, we are leaning into the telemedicine approach. So yeah, it's been difficult, and definitely things got quite slow in the early phases of the whole situation. But thankfully, we've returned to a lot of in-person care as well, and have obviously had to develop very strong protocols for ensuring that that we're in no way a vector for any community transmission. So we have a pretty strong screening process. Where our receptionist is always screening folks before in-person appointments are made, and that provides a level of comfort for everybody, including our staff here, that we're not inviting anybody in who's symptomatic. So yeah, it's been a lot. We've had to really be creative and versatile with how we bring what we're offering to the community.
Yeah, that's great that you have that ability to do so. And I'm curious. I mean, because you are a provider, you just said a little bit ago that naturopaths do also get trained in conventional medicine. You're really holistic, and I'm assuming you get to work with COVID patients. Is that correct?
Yeah, we sure do, and it's been particularly in recent months. Without much work on my part, it's become a very big part of my practice, and it's honestly consuming most of my days right now. And I feel very fortunate to have protocols and treatments that seem to be working very well to treat people in an outpatient setting. This is something that I feel very strongly that, as many doctors and scientists all over the country and all over the world feel, that there should have been and still should be a much stronger emphasis from public health leadership put on the options that are available for treating people in an outpatient setting. This is, and particularly in a time when all you hear when you turn on the news is hospitals being overcrowded and at capacity, et cetera. More than ever, we need, whether folks are vaccinated or unvaccinated, they're still getting sick in varying levels. And to have, outpatient options for treatment, I think, is probably the most critical thing right now in dealing with this virus. So I am really happy to have resources to offer the community where I can, and again, for people who are calling in for appointments who are already symptomatic, obviously we do everything telemed in terms of putting together recommendations so that people can get treatment and stay out of the hospital and, go above and beyond. I don't know to what degree, doctors are giving outpatient recommendations, but from what I've heard from some of our patient population is that, which again is only a select number of folks, but that they're not getting much in the way of recommendations, that they're, get tested positive and are told to go home and stay isolated for 10 to 14 days and just, take general good care, eat well, and that's great. And of course, that's important. But there is certainly a lot more that can be done in terms of treatment to increase the likelihood that the course of the infection is less severe and less prolonged.
And so what are you seeing with your treatment protocol that you're offering your clients, patients? Are you seeing some positive recovery times?
Yeah, we really are. It's been very worthwhile, and to date, nobody has ended up in the ER that I've been working with, and nobody has had to be hospitalized. So we're seeing it not reaching a severe pulmonary phase, and we're seeing it able to keep the inflammation levels down, and people recovering largely without much incident. Now, of course, there are folks who are still developing some late symptoms and needing to be worked with for a longer period of time, where some of the classic late symptoms are lingering or hanging on. But that's a vast minority of folks that we're working with. So, my confidence level has just risen over the last couple months. More and more people that I work with, and we're seeing them able to kick this and have a non-severe, non-life-threatening run of it.
I love what you're sharing. It feels really positive and good and reassuring. Just everywhere I look and hear is just how deadly and horrible. And yeah, it is. But we have options, and we have hope, is what I hear you talking about, which is great.
Yeah, I know it. It's just, and in saying what I'm about to say, I don't in any way mean to minimize the potential for this being a very severe infection, and I don't mean to minimize those people who have lost loved ones, or have they themselves had a very serious run of it or ended up in a hospital setting. So I don't mean to minimize that in any way. I know that is happening. However, I think it's so important for people to remember that we still have bodies with an incredible capacity to heal, and a very incredible evolved immune systems that are always working and fighting to keep our bodies healthy. And I think that, again, we need more emphasis and more energy from public health leadership that's put on all of the well-researched and evidence-based ways that are out there right now that have been well-studied over the course of the last 18 months that help capitalize on that, that enhance the body's immune system, that help support the body's ability to fight this infection. Because, again, there are many layers of evidence for additional things that can be done. So it is an approach where we're not leaning so much into the fear and the paranoia, but we're leaning into, hey, folks, we have these incredible bodies. Let's look at all the ways that we can support healing and recovery. And I think there is the prevention piece, and exactly, and the proactive piece, and sort of not just wait and watch approach. It's we have options, and they seem to really be helping. So yeah.
As I'm listening to you talk, I'm looking at this in the context of my profession, which is counseling, and, which is all about our thoughts and our mind and our emotions and how those can sort of control us and wreak havoc in our life. And I also feel like there needs to be an emphasis on that, how fear and negative thinking and these emotions can sort of polarize, they can sort of magnetize, not that it's its fault, but it can magnetize certain experiences that can be avoided. So, it's like you get COVID and you're really sick, and having this sort of hopeful idea of like, okay, there's options out there for me. I can go see Dr. Josh Phillips for healing. I can, there's just so much more that needs to be spoken to that I don't hear at all spoken to.
Right, right. I agree, Shanti, and it's it's sort of this classic story of, what makes good media and what makes good news, and we've heard about that for a long time, for decades, that it's obviously the polarizing news, it's the sad and dramatic and tragic news that sells time, right? It sells airtime, it sells papers, and in a moment that we're in right now, of course, what great material they have to focus on the negative, right? And we're not hearing a lot of stories about all of the great recoveries and all of the people who had mild cases and all the people who recovered at home with a modicum of treatment. We're not hearing those stories, and it's unfortunate because it does keep us in a place of fear, and it keeps us really wound up, and it keeps the population very anxious and feeling that it's doomsday, So I would agree so much that anything people can do right now to feed into their systems a sense of positivity, a sense of hope, a sense of joy, any activities that we can do, and I'm saying this for myself as well, to spend time in nature and be with the mountains in the hills is so important right now for keeping mental health up and trying to stay away from this fear cycle that we're really caught in.
And everything you mention also builds the immune system.
Exactly.
And the other thing that we're not hearing are the stories of resiliency, the resiliency of the human spirit, the resiliency of our communities, and so there's so much. But, we need to take a little bit of a break. You're listening to Curiosity Lab. I am interviewing Dr. Josh Phillips. He is the director of Hawthorn Healing Arts, and he's also a naturopathic physician. And Dr. Josh, I just wanted to go on the thread a little bit more deeply about, we're heading into fall, and every time we tune into TV, we're just hearing this crazy Delta variant spreading like nuts. What are ways that we can remain healthy and keep a healthy immune system, and maybe some tools or techniques or things to integrate into our life that will help with our health?
Yeah, great question. I'm hesitant to get into too much detail, and only for the reason of the fact that I do like things to be very individualized when it comes to recommendations for folks. So I guess, anything that I mention in terms of supplements and that sort of thing, I suppose it would be wise of me to make the disclaimer that it should always be under the supervision of somebody's healthcare provider, because there are individual situations where certain nutrients and herbs and supplements, etc., don't make sense for every single person.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I think it's good to, I always would recommend folks have someone that knows their health history firsthand, knows their body's weaknesses and strengths, etc., and obviously any kind of recommendations then would be more meaningful and targeted. But having said all of that, there are some things that obviously make sense for almost everybody. And, before the break, you and I were talking about probably one of the most underrated and understated ones is emotional and mental well-being. And I think we really neglect how big a deal that is for physical health. Mind-body medicine has been a buzzword for a long time, but I think it's never been more important than it is right now at a time when have really been whipped up into a frenzy of fear and anxiety. That I would put that at the top of the list of the priorities in terms of what folks could be thinking about in terms of prevention of the run-of-the-mill infections that typically start happening in the fall, and those that aren't so run-of-the-mill and more serious. But to spend time out in nature, I think for most people brings their system a great sense of peace and groundedness and connectedness. And I think when we feel grounded and connected with nature, our nervous systems settle down. We're able to separate from the kind of noise of the media and everything that's going on And we're able to find that sense of I'm okay in this world, and I'm connected to something bigger than myself, and I'm connected to something bigger than humanity even. And I think that sends a really powerful message through the nervous system, which impacts, guess what, the immune system very, very dramatically. You know, there's no quicker way to inhibit a healthy immune response than to be in a chronic state of stress and worry and fear. That impacts cortisol levels, which knocks down a healthy immune system. It's something we've known for a long time. So I think it's really important to emphasize that, and that's going to be different for different people. For some folks, it's nature. For a lot of folks, it's exercise, music, connection with friends and family, of course, is huge. And I think all of those things that will bring us a sense of peace and joy internally, you can bet that that's going to mean a healthier immune system. So, you know, beyond that, obviously we get into kind of the world of the biochemical and physiologic, and you know that opens up a whole bunch of possibilities in terms of ways to stay healthy. And you know, and it starts obviously with good nutrition. And you know, I think a lot of folks don't also realize that the health of the digestive system is very directly connected to the health of the immune system. And in fact, as many people have heard, the majority of the immune system is in the gut. And that's a very evolutionarily intelligent feature of the human body. But it's very critical when it comes to healthy immune function that we're not eating foods that create a lot of inflammation and a lot of chronic digestive system problems, because that ultimately will affect our ability to fight off infections. So, and again, there's so many different layers to talk about, and obviously a lot of different health issues that people are dealing with, but that's one to take seriously. You know, if someone has an unhealthy digestive system, to equate that to, you know, immune health as well. And in some cases that means identifying foods that are causing problems. And in other cases it just means, you know, not eating too much sugar, right? And which can be inflammatory, and not drinking too much alcohol, and staying well hydrated with plenty of water. I mean, some of this very grandmotherly advice, right? That is, you know, simple, but I think understated in its importance. So yeah, those are some real basic things, you know, and obviously then we get into details of supplements, and there are some that make a great deal of sense for folks for general health and well-being. And you know, living up near the 45th parallel, we don't get great conversion of vitamin D from sunlight, except for a few months out of the year. So I'm a big fan of supplementing that vitamin, which has piles of research and evidence that support that being a really good idea, you know, particularly at more northern latitudes. So I'm a fan of that one. And, of course, probiotics, back to the gut health and the gut immune system interface. You know, a good probiotic goes a long ways, not only for digestion, but also for immune system health as well. So those are a couple of general recommendations that, you know, make sense for almost everybody. And, you know, and then, of course, there's many, many more options. That
let's stop right there, because I know you you really could say a lot, and that was actually helpful. And I think I think we do often need to remind people of how simple taking back your health can be. You know, there are some very simple steps that you can integrate immediately that will have profound changes over time. And I love that. And that was great. And I so appreciate how everything you shared, it's so holistic. I mean, you're looking at the whole person, which I just wish we all were when we were, you know, working with people or diagnosing people. It's wonderful. So thank you. But I wanted to spend these last like 30 seconds or so can you share, how do we find you? I know you guys have an awesome newsletter you can sign up for. So I just want to put that out there. But yeah, what's your website? How can we find you?
Yeah, the website's a great place to get introduced to the practice. It's hawthorncenter.com, and we spell Hawthorn with no E at the end. And obviously, we staff the front desk 5 days a week, so obviously you can just give a phone call to the office as well. But the website's a great overview of everything we offer here, as well as our group of providers that are part of the team. And you can sign up for the newsletter on the website as well, and that is sent out monthly with lots of cool information and educational articles and that sort of thing.